Yesterday, I stayed in Needles, and the elevation was like 400 something feet. And today I'm in Flagstaff, and the elevation's like 6,900 feet, which is 69. But I don't really have a point to that. I just thought it was interesting. I am definitely feeling the altitude a little bit of short breath, a little bit like, meh, and then the dry air just in general. Like I'm very, very used to being close to the ocean. So my sinuses are pretty swollen up and irritated from it. I have some saline spray, and so I've just been using that, but it's not perfect. What would be perfect is like a mister that puts like moisture into the air. But I'm not traveling with one of those. I'm not. That would be silly. Take up a lot of trunk space. I like wanted to record, but I'm also kind of like just in this mood where I'm just kind of like do. So like I feel like I'm gonna record because that's what I'm doing. You're listening to it, so obviously I did it. Gosh, but I'm like, am I gonna say anything that makes sense? I don't really know because my brain doesn't feel like it wants to make sense right now. So today I drove to Flagstaff. I went through a whole bunch of like areas that all just looked pretty different from each other, which was really cool. I had my playlist on, which I'm planning to link to my playlist in case anybody wants to know what I listen to on the road for this trip. And we're just enjoying it. One of my friends tried to call me and I was like, no, because I was enjoying my alone time. And there was no traffic really. There was like a ton of cars, but we were all at pace together. I did have a road friend for a while, but I don't know. They weren't as cool as my road friend yesterday with their tie downs. It was just, I don't know. I just felt relaxed. It was kind of nice. Like I'd be in the car and it'd be kind of cold from the air conditioner. And then I would step outside and it'd be like really fucking hot. And it like kind of felt good. And then I'd get back in the car. I stopped a couple times to take pictures, but there really wasn't anything like, to really stop and see. Like there's no vista points or anything really like really close by. Like everything was like 40 miles off the beaten path. So I got to Flagstaff around like 2:30 or so, and I got a room, and then I came in and took a nap, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll go do something. But by the time I woke up from the nap, most of the parks and stuff were already closed. The only thing that was open was the observatory, and that's too many people in an enclosed space. It's just, I'm not comfortable. I don't have the right kind of mask to wear. Like I only brought the kind of masks that protect everybody else. I don't have the mask that protects me. And I take cooties very, very seriously because if I get sick, and I'm not talking about COVID, I'm just talking about cooties in general, I could relapse. And I don't want to do that. People with chronic fatigue syndrome, the number one cause of death for people with chronic fatigue syndrome is suicide, and it's after a relapse. Like when people kind of start to get their lives back and then they get a cold or something and they crash. And a lot of times what happens is they're sicker than they were the first time, and it just feels impossible. And I don't want to go back there. I'm not saying that I would kill myself, but I don't want to go back there. Like, and I can absolutely understand why. Because when I was at the height of my sickness, I told my doctors that I wanted it to kill me because I was done. I did not want to live that way if I was going to live that way for the rest of my life. Because at that point, I couldn't drive a car. I couldn't go to the bathroom without needing to lay on the floor before I moved myself back to the couch to lay on the couch to recuperate from moving myself from the bathroom. It was like 20 feet was too much to travel. I couldn't watch TV because it caused me fatigue. Being a passenger in a car caused me fatigue. And when I say fatigue, like a lot of people be like, oh, well, you know, I'm fatigued after work or whatever. And it's not the same. You're tired after work. Sometimes you have fatigue, like you fatigued your muscles from working out or whatever. But unless you actually have like chronic fatigue or whatever, you're not going to experience that kind of fatigue. It's like, I don't know. A lot of people I talk to when they get colds, they don't experience the fatigue. My entire life, if I was getting sick, I knew I was getting sick because I would be so fatigued that I would go lay in the bathtub all day. Like, and I've talked to people who are like, no, I don't really get that. But I mean, maybe that was a sign of what was to come. But it's like you have a lead blanket on you. It's hard to breathe. It's like squeezing your brain. I don't know how to explain it. It's torture. It's awful. So I don't do things that could expose me. If I ever have to go somewhere where there's a lot of people, I will wear a mask that protects me. Since nobody else wants to do that anymore. You know, obviously I'm not worried about getting weird looks because I have a shaved head and tattoos and stuff. And I've been getting a lot of looks. Like sometimes I forget, you know, that I live in a little bubble of tolerance and acceptance and weirdness by living in the Bay Area. And when I travel outside of that, people are nice, but they're also not used to seeing people who look different. And so they stare a lot, you know. I was going to say something else and I got on a tangent and totally like forgot what I was going to say. But, you know, I was talking to my friend because she gets mistaken for a man a lot. And it can be hard on her when she's in the bathroom and people are like, you need to go use the other bathroom. And that used to happen to me like a lot. And when I got sick, it stopped happening. And I'm not sure why. Because my entire life I have been misgendered. And something, I don't know if my body language changed because I lost like I used to be really, really strong and I lost all my muscle and I like have floppy arms now and my shoulders are kind of rolled forward in a more traditional female way because women tend to roll their shoulders forward as a way to kind of like hide their breasts and they do it subconsciously. And it's a really common posture to see. And I didn't used to do that. I always had my shoulders back and my arms open. And so I would like go, you know, like have short hair or whatever and go into a bathroom and have women like screech and be like, you don't belong in here and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I do. Like, you know, like all you gotta do is like look lower than my hair. Look at my face, look at my ass. I have ass for days and I have never seen a man that has an ass like mine. You know, it's not, my hips were made for pushing babies out. My son came out in 6 hours. He was my first baby and he fucking flew out, you know, and like, yeah, I am very like feminine build, but I just did not carry myself in that way. And because of my hair and stuff, so people would just be like, oh, you're and like freak out. Like one time it happened a whole bunch of times in a short period of time and I got real tired of it. And then this lady, she's just like, you don't belong in here, like blocking me. So I pulled up my shirt, showed her my tits. I was just like, shut up. Like, you know, I actually said something a lot ruder to her, but yeah, I have mixed feelings, right? Because men are a threat to women. And I'm sorry if that bothers you. If you're a man and you're like, well, I'm not a threat. Well, if that's your first thought, you're kind of part of the problem because like you got to recognize that there's a bigger issue. And it's not just about you. And like, so women feel threatened by men. So there's a reason why they would feel threatened by a man being in the bathroom. But at the same time, stranger danger is bullshit. Like, statistically, if some shit's gonna happen, some perv's gonna do pervy things, some raper's gonna do raper things, statistically, it's gonna be somebody you know, not some fucking random person. And it's so highly improbable that you're going to randomly run into a perv in a bathroom that it's not really realistic or healthy to be assuming that the first person you run across that doesn't like fit or you think doesn't fit is actually a threat. But it says something about our culture, and it says something about the state of the world and the experience for women experiencing the state of the world, that they feel threatened so easily and so quickly. And it's, you know, it's a mix of the fact that, yeah, men are a threat, you know, but also the hysteria caused by stranger danger, because the stranger danger shit, it changed the way that we parent, like, overnight. We changed so quickly how we treat our children. And that, like, mindset, the fear mongering that's in media, even if, like, all of it was only directed at parenting and at children's safety. I keep hitting the mic. I'm sorry if you can hear that. It still impacts the way that we perceive the world around us. So, you know, you can't just, like, perceive a threat in one direction. We're going to start perceiving threats everywhere. So, like, the stranger danger stuff basically amplified the fear. So instead of having, like, some basic common sense fear where you stop and assess the situation, people are very quick to sort of knee-jerk react and stuff. And so I think, like, all of this stuff, like, feeds into it. And this is, like, totally, I think, separate from, like, the trans issue and bathrooms and stuff, because that's such nonsense too. Like, you know, is it possible for there to be, like, a pervy trans person? Absolutely. Trans people are people. They absolutely could be shitty fucking predators. Are they statistically more likely to be predators? Absolutely not. Like, and there's so few trans people in comparison to, like, everybody else, that they're way less likely. It's way less likely you're going to run into, like, a trans person that's a threat, you know? But nobody on the, you know, anti-trans bathroom stuff wants to, you know, deal with that. I do find it interesting, though, that these people who freak out about women who don't fit the expected whatever of what women are supposed to look like, that a lot of these women are probably women who are like, no, trans people should be able to use the bathroom. Like, I don't think that, like, these women who are screaming at me and trying to chase me out of the bathroom are the women that are, like, anti-trans rights and shit like that. Like, I think probably the opposite, and that they probably don't even, like, realize, like, the not the irony, but the whatever. There's a word there, and you probably know the word, so I'm not gonna, you know. And the reason why I think that has to do with location, because of where I live, and because I live in an area that considers itself progressive. And I think that a lot of those people are full of shit and say what they think they're supposed to say because they want to fit in with the environment that they live in, but they actually haven't really thought about it and don't really, you know, like, they say all the right things, and I think they want to believe those things, but they haven't done the work to live in the world that they say that they believe in. if that makes sense. I'm not saying that they don't, that they secretly don't believe that stuff. It's not that. It's that they haven't done the work to live in the reality that they say that they support. So when they are faced with that reality, they don't deal with it as well as they say. So it's like people who say they're not racist, who then show bias when looking at resumes or whatever. You know, like they may not be intentionally racist, but they have like a bias that's built in and they haven't done the work, right? So that's what I'm talking about. It took me a while to get to that point, but that's what I meant. I mean, we all have that a little bit because bias is a natural side effect of pattern recognition, which our brain does really, really well. But we just need to be mindful of it. We also need systems in place that minimize the opportunity for bias to be part of the deciding factor in things. I heard this guy talking and he was saying how, when I say this guy, he was like a professor or an attorney or something. I can't remember. Maybe he was a professor of law. Anyway, he said that like when he accepts resumes to hire people, he is explicit that he doesn't want anything identifying. So he doesn't want to know what school they went to. He wants to know what their degree was in, so that he knows that they have the knowledge, but he doesn't care what school they went to. Like that shouldn't matter. And, you know, like things like gender, name, all of that needs to be removed before he goes through the resumes. And I think that that's like a great idea. And I think that like we should do that as much as we can because we can't stop the bias. We can mitigate it. We can manage it, but it's always going to be there to a certain extent because that's how our brains work. And our culture, our society, our education system is absolutely not built to give people the critical thinking tools that are needed to do the work to manage their biases. I mean, we don't even value personal accountability in our culture. We say we do, but we don't. Because we don't look to people who are personally accountable and uphold them as the ideal. We don't worship those people. We don't applaud our peers for doing that. Like, it's kind of pretty much seems like it's the opposite. Like, we respect people who get away with shit. We give power to people who lie, steal, and get away with shit. We obsess and worship over, you know, people who haven't like worked for what they have. It's just, yeah. A person who can't be is not a thing. But it should be. Should be. So tomorrow I will go down to where I'm going, Snowflake, Arizona. And if you look it up on the map, it's a tiny, tiny little area. I think the population's like 5,000 people or something. So not tiniest, but pretty small. And then the property that I'm going to is like 8 miles outside of that, down a dirt road that's apparently very bumpy. So my car is going to freaking love that. But then I'll go see the RV, and the seller, apparently her neighbors come and hang out, so there might be socializing, and I kind of like freaked out about that earlier and like reminded myself that I can go hide in the RV if it's too much for me. Evenings have been kind of hard for me lately because my mast cell stuff has been flaring, and my gut will like be really uncomfortable, like hurts because it like bloats up so much. So I'm not sure that I'll fill up to socializing, but I will remain open to it because it sounds like she has a lot of interesting neighbors and stuff. People who built their own houses, they live off the grid. She was telling me about one person that he built his house into the hillside, and the shape of the house accommodates trees and stuff. And like he's got like a actual solar oven and stuff like that. Like not like a solar oven with solar panels, but like a oven with a hole to the outside where the light is focused inward so that you get all that heat and stuff. So that's pretty cool. You know, that's a commitment. It's an interesting lifestyle. And I feel like there's probably like a lot of weight taken off, you know, and I'm curious to see, like, once I'm in the RV, if I feel that way too. I don't know. My friend, he works in law and deals with like, I don't know what the word is. Basically situations where bad things happen and people get hurt and die because of something, and they sue the company that made the thing that did the damage. So, for example, somebody's tire blows and people are damaged or injured, I should say, or die because the car flipped over or whatever, there'll be a lawsuit for the tire company. And so he works in that kind of law. And so he's like really exposed to a lot of yucky, scary, how things go wrong kind of thing. So he messaged me and he started being like, you know, do you have this? Do you have that? Blah, blah, blah. These are the things that go wrong. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to die in a fire. I don't want to live in an army. But bad things happen no matter where you're at. But like the most common cause of fires in RVs are the fridges. They're like propane powered. And one of the primary causes, or believed to be primary causes, is having like cobwebs and stuff around the starter lighter thing. So obviously I'm going to pull the fridge out and I'm going to clean back there. And the same for the water heater. If I'm ever in a situation where I have access to electricity, I will switch to all electric stuff and move away from propane because that will make it a little bit safer. But you know, like wiring, and it's a structure that moves regularly and bounces around and stuff. So, but like, I just was like, oh shit, you know. Also, a lot of these things that happen, they're user error. It's not that the tires are going boom on them. It's because they didn't take care of the tires. The tires are too old. They're underfilled, overfilled, whatever. The user error. He said that like the primary cause of like propane tank failures is because people overfill the tanks. So, you know, like basic prevention goes a long way. You know, like wearing masks and stuff. No, wait. Wearing masks doesn't work because wearing masks protects everybody else. That's not prevention. That's being courteous to other people. But we can't ask people to do that. That's too much work. Don't do that. That's sarcasm, by the way, in case it wasn't obvious from like my words not making sense that I was being sarcastic. It's not really bedtime yet, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I'm going to go to bed pretty soon because I don't know. I'm tired, feeling idle, and I could like sit here and like record for another 30 minutes probably pretty easily, but like, you know, I only want to record when I'm like feeling it and not like just make filler, you know? And right now I'm like sitting in this like big ass plush bed, just like super chillaxed. Like I feel a little bit high, to be honest, but I'm not high because that's not really my thing. I get high on life, man. Oh my God, like this. So the ads on Twitter for Cheech and Chong's like THC gummies, they're 100% legal, man. If you haven't seen them, you don't know, but the ads are like really prolific on there and they say they're 100% legal. And it's so funny. I keep like, it keeps popping in my head. They're 100% legal, man. Man, I loved Cheech and Chong when I was a kid. And yeah, my parents let me watch that. They didn't care, but I love that. Get out of my room and leave me alone. Oh man, you scratched my favorite record. Like that whole, like I used to listen to that album. I like to watch the movies too. They're funny. My parents were stoners, so to me, like that was just, it was like my parents' culture being kind of made fun of on TV. It just made sense to me. But like, is there anything like that now? Is there a modern day equivalent to Cheech and Chong for the younger generation? You know, I have no idea. Like, if you know, let me know because I'm very curious. You know, I probably won't find it funny the way I found Cheech and Chong funny when I was 10 years old, but I just feel like they were such a unique set of characters. And then that makes me think of Born in East LA. And he's like teaching them how to like behave. And he's like doing the thing with the hat. He's like, hey, what's happening? And he was like, like you're waving a fart. Like that scene was so funny to me that I would rewind it and like watch it again and like laugh. Anything with farts really, like Stephen King's It, there's a scene in the book where the bad kids are hanging out, I think in the dump or something, junkyard, and they're lighting their farts on fire. And the way that Stephen King described it was so funny. Like I would go back and reread that segment over and over again and just laugh. I was like 11 years old or so when I read that book and I just laughed over and over and over again. So I guess I have a thing for farts, but that's not surprising. That's not a new revelation. Well, I don't know if this is enjoyable to listen to. I guess we'll find out. I'm going to go get ready for bed because tomorrow I get to meet my new home in person. And I'm not nervous. You're nervous.